Hey everybody, welcome back to We Are the Batman. I'm Mike.
And this is Matthew.
All right, it's the end of the month, which means it's time for our next Batman breakdown, our next breakdown of the next live action Batman film in release order. And we've reached the end of the Dark Knight trilogy with Christopher Nolan's third and final Batman movie, The Dark Knight Rises. Once again, starring Christian Bale as Batman, Gary Oldman as Commissioner Gordon, and introducing Tom Hardy as Bane, Anne Hathaway as Catwoman, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt as just a police officer and nothing else.
And Marion Cotillard as made-up character who we all knew was Talia, but they said was not Talia, even though we all knew it was Talia.
It's like we knew. It's very obvious. It's so incredibly obvious.
Yeah.
Just like when J.J. Abrams swore up and down that Benedict Cumberbatch wasn't playing Khan. It's like, yeah, he is. Okay.
Yeah.
he just punched Spock in that he's Khan. So that
you could lie to yourself and you could lie to the public, but don't lie to us. We know.
And also the entire basis of the pivotal point of your movie. Anyway, this is not the Star Trek podcast. It's another show. Look, we're on the record as like, look, I don't think this movie's that bad. I really don't. I think this movie's actually pretty good for the most part. I think, we know this wasn't plan A. We've talked about it all the time. We've talked about Christopher Nolan's trilogy. For what it is, I think it's fine, but I just feel like I think this movie is 2.5 hours of missed opportunities. I really do.
I think having rewatched it for the first time since I think it hit DVD. Okay. It wasn't as bad as I remember, but I think I think my biggest thing with this is definitely, I don't like a majority of this because it's not what I wanted to see. On top of that, there are 2 or 3 like glaring logic problems with the movie that I think like something like Batman Begins. It's such a good movie. There's like 2 or 3 logic flaws that I'm like, didn't even think about because I'm on the ride, or there's other movies like that where it's like, yeah, I'm so invested. I'm here. This isn't stick out. But because I'm not didn't exactly like all this movie, those logic flaws just just sit in front of my face when I'm watching the movie. And one of them is horribly egregious. The rest is kind of like, okay, I get it. You have to let things happen. But there's a couple little things here and there where I'm like, I don't like this. But then, does that make sense? Am I just blabbing now?
No, you're good. Here's the thing about this movie. It's 2.5 hours long. He doesn't show up as Batman for the first time until almost an hour into the movie.
Yeah.
Not 45 minutes, not 50, almost a full hour. And he's Batman for about 15 minutes, and then he's not Batman again until the last 30.
No, he has another appearance as Batman. Because he has to get his butt kicked by Bane.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. He has his first appearance as Batman. He comes back to get his ass kicked by Bane.
Yeah.
And then he's not Batman again until the last 30 minutes.
It's like 3 Batman scenes in the whole movie.
Yeah, and the first 2 aren't much to really.
Yeah.
I was really disappointed in their handling of the Nightfall storylines. I don't know. I feel like, again, I think this movie is a lot of missed opportunities where it's like, it seems like they're setting up for something and then they don't do what it seems like, what it felt like they were setting up for. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's not as interesting. Oh,
see, I always used to call this movie contract obligation. Like, he didn't really want to do it, but for him to do the other things he wanted Warner Brothers to let him do, he had to do it. So that's why I feel like there's such a rush to get it done that there's a couple, like I said, like glaring logic flaws that I feel like David Goyer is a much better writer and Christopher Nolan is a much better filmmaker to allow this to be there. But it's just like, oh, we have to do this. We have to have this movie done. We have to get this. The first one made $1 billion. We got to do this, and I don't know why. I almost feel like you should have just not done it. But I think it was a contract obligation. I think he had to make this movie, be it was the original story he wanted or the story that they had to do because of the tragic passing of Heath Ledger. But I do feel like yeah, you did not get to simmer on this script as long as you did everything else, and it shows.
Well, here's where I think one of the things where I think it really shows, and I'm gonna explain this by posing you a question.
Okay.
Why wasn't the main villain just Scarecrow?
Yeah.
Why wasn't he just Scarecrow? It should like why would you not have him? To me, it just seems like if you're wanting to go back to if you're wanting to take your third movie and have it tie back to Batman Begins this heavily, why bother introducing a brand new character when you have one that was set up quite well in that movie, we know is still out and active in doing things because of his appearance in The Dark Knight, and now it can be, well, after all this time, and because Batman stopped shutting down his operations after what happened with Joker and Two-Face, Crane just took over.
Yeah. It's a weird, I feel like the story is a weird mashup of The Dark Knight Returns and Nightfall.
Yeah,
And
but
it
like
but not in a good way.
no, only like in like 3 scenes. Like it's a pull from Nightfall in that Bane breaks Batman's back.
Correct.
It's a pull from The Dark Knight Returns in that we get a couple lines of dialogue, the whole like you're in for a show now, kid, and the fact that he comes back out of retirement.
Yes.
That's it. That's all the connection there is to anything to do with Nightfall and The Dark Knight Returns. And it's like I feel like if you're gonna do it, just do it. Like have it be the mutants taking it. Like have just do a straight adaptation of The Dark Knight Returns. You know?
Yeah. The Bane we got was the leader of the mutants without the weird mohawk instead of Bane from the comics.
It's exactly the same thing. It's like just do the mutants. It's like you might as well. It's basically you're absolutely right. I never put that together. It's the same thing. He should have just been the leader of the mutants because then where's Joker at? He's in a coma or whatever. And then, like who cares, or after all this time he was able to save Harvey. I don't know. Harvey breaks out of Arkham as Two-Face and go like you could have just done a straight adaptation of the first 2 parts of The Dark Knight Returns and it would have been great.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's a weird so my thing that I don't like as far as like the choice is Batman no longer being Batman after the whole Harvey Dent thing. So basically, the end of the Dark Knight, you're expected to believe he was done. He hasn't been active in 6 or 8 years. I can't remember which one the movie says, and I just kind of find that hard to believe because I was like, so his mission was just to like that cured his mission because of this whole weird whatever that case was where like you try everybody and now they're all in jail, and I just kind of feel like that doesn't solve crime. That solves that organization. But you tell me in 8 years nobody else stepped up. That seems.
The thought I was having the other day when I was rewatching this is it feels like so we because The Long Halloween was such a massive influence on The Dark Knight. And we've talked about over all of October about The Long Halloween and how it was Batman realizing for the first time, oh, this isn't just me taking down the mob anymore. This is me having to be a detective and be a hero. And I feel like The Dark Knight Rises is like, what if Batman came out of The Long Halloween and said, well, fuck that. I'm not doing that. I quit.
Yeah.
It's like he got presented with the idea of having to take on things bigger than just the mob and was like, nope, I'm good.
Yeah, that was fun. I'm done.
If you look at the official plot synopsis, it says that he retires because he still hasn't gotten over the death of Rachel. Now, here's where I take massive issue with that. First of all, that's so out of the realm of the character of Batman. I mean, if there's one thing Batman has had to put up with, it's been loss. And it's like, you're telling me that the loss of his parents drives him to become this creature of the night and this symbol for justice, and then the death of the girl who couldn't decide if she wanted him or not made him quit. Really?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? But also, it almost felt to me like, because Christopher Nolan caught a lot of crap for Rachel Dawes because she was this original character that nobody liked, that didn't really grab audiences, and it almost felt like him writing Batman to quit over the death of Rachel was like Christopher Nolan giving everyone the finger, like, I'm gonna make my original character important. It's like, dude, just cut the losses, man. Nobody wanted Rachel. Sorry.
Well, and it also, like, to me, like, I understand this is not the Batman from the comic.
Sure.
Like, this is the Batman from this Christopher Nolan trilogy of movies. But I think you're right. Like, I don't get in my gut that Rachel's death causes him to quit. Like, maybe the combination of her death and crime being figured out. But right. I just go like there's no, like, he wasn't that hurt.
It's not,
the dude has had 8 years to recover.
That's kind of my point, though, is like, it's not super clear why he quit in the first place. Like, in The Dark Knight Returns, it's heavily implied that what gets him to quit is the death of Jason Todd. You know, the idea that somebody was killed that he got this kid killed, and that's what causes him to quit. You know,
you're talking about the book?
The book. Yeah. The Dark
okay.
Knight, not The Dark Knight Rises. In The Dark Knight Returns, the book, it's heavily implied that he hasn't spoken to Dick Grayson since the death of Jason, and that's what got him to quit. Unless I am remembering completely incorrectly.
I think you're right in that they don't necessarily say it. I always assumed that he had defeated all of his villains, and as things changed, it was better for him to go away, which is why Superman's so mad that he becomes Batman again. Because it was like, you're the one that was the bad example they were using against us. The fact that you retired and you quit made everything easier for us. So the fact that you're back is pissing me off, and that's part of why I have to come and beat your butt.
okay, even if I'm wrong, and I think now that you're saying that out loud, I'm like, oh yeah, no, I'm dumb. Forget it. Ignore me. But that's at least still a reason. We don't know what the actual reason is why he retired in this one, when it seemed like he was just going to go, just use the idea of, like, oh, people are going to think I killed Harvey Dent and killed all these people now, because throughout the whole of The Dark Knight, the whole thing is people are starting to not be afraid of him because they know he doesn't kill.
Yeah.
And that's why at the end he's like, no, you tell them I killed those people. I can take the heat because now I can go be Batman, and people are going to be now afraid of me that I might snap and kill them again. And I'm like, letting him embrace and use that fear would have been a great idea for a third movie.
Yeah. And then on top of that, like, I know he got shot and he got stabbed and bitten by a bunch of dogs, but that doesn't mean his knee's bad.
Well,
so I have no idea why he is now crippled when he only operated as Batman for maybe a year. Like, that's where I go, like
maybe 2 tops, I think,
if that. But my point more is, like, there's nothing that happens to him in the previous 2 films when you tell me he quit pretty much right soon after Dark Knight that makes me believe that suddenly he has to walk with a cane.
He has no cartilage left at his knee.
Yeah, from what? Yeah. Base jumping with a cape that actually allows you to I just,
that was the whole, I don't know. Again, it's not clear. It's like, especially because that whole knee thing goes away after one scene.
Yeah,
he goes back to the cave, puts the thing on his knee that makes his knee so strong he can now kick through a brick wall, and it's never addressed again.
Correct.
Never again. Not once. Not ever. Forget it ever happened. Which then has me going, well, then why is it there? Like,
yeah, it's a weird.
And if he was just going to quit right after Harvey Dent's death and Rachel's death and everything in The Dark Knight, then why did he rebuild the Batcave? Then why would he go to all that trouble to build all this new tech that wasn't there in Batman Begins? Why would he build this landing pad armory in the cave then?
Yeah,
Why would he
like
bother?
you have that moment where he like, so Alfred's like, so we're not gonna be Batman anymore. Do we stop construction? I mean, we might as well finish it.
Because they haven't even started on that section of the cave yet. We could just tell them to just skip over it, and because it's not, and they'll never have to know about it. Nah, let's just go ahead. Why?
Yeah. Yeah.
I will
And
say,
this is where I
will
said
say this. I watched this movie like just a couple days ago in preparation for this, and I will say I did come out of it liking it less than I usually did.
yeah, it's got a lot of logic problems.
Well, not even logic problems, just the whole opening sequence with the planes is ridiculous. It doesn't make a lick of sense from a physics standpoint, from a how machines work standpoint, from a how guns work standpoint. There's nothing about that sequence that makes a lick of sense.
But it looks cool.
No, it doesn't though. It looks dumb. It doesn't
It's
even
weird.
look cool. Like there's no way a plane is flying while dragging another one like that, hanging down straight, getting that much wind drag. There's absolutely no way in hell. Also, when these guys are picking up these like Mac 10 machine guns and are holding them and just shooting them willy-nilly with one hand, I'm like, those things would fire and bump up right into their forehead. That's not how guns work.
Yeah.
That's also not how taking blood out of a body works. Like that's not how any of this works at all. And like Bane calling out the stupidity of shooting someone then throwing them out of an airplane, and it's like, yeah, having a character call out your bad plot logic doesn't make it bad any less bad. Like,
yeah,
the whole opening sequence is ridiculous and stupid.
I can't argue that it's.
That being said, I do really like Tom Hardy's Bane.
I think had he been any of a million other characters not called Bane, I would have been totally on board. But at the same time, like, I think he's awesome. Like, I think he plays the villain. He's freaking huge. I like everything he's doing. I don't have a like. It's kind of like there's performance wise. I think Christian Bale is allowed to actually act again in this movie, which he doesn't get a lot of opportunity in Dark Knight because of what's all going on. So I like his performance in this a lot better. I think Anne Hathaway is amazing as Catwoman. I think Tom Hardy as Bale is perfect.
Tom Hardy
there's what did I? Oh, Bane, not Bale, Bane. But I think that there's like I don't have a problem with his character and everything he does. I have a problem with the defeat of his character. And I think you and I talked about this on the phone. This is that whole thing of like, if you're taking it from The Dark Knight Rises, he fights the mutant leader, trying to fight him as a young man, gets overpowered and loses. So when he goes back, he uses technique and different things and tears them apart. You don't get that in the fight between the two of them at the end of the movie. It looks exactly the same. And this, to my opinion, is where, and this is going probably way too deep, where the Casey fighting method, the style of martial arts that they use in this movie fails, is that it to show the techniques, to show how Batman could have been smarter and doing other things, would have been somebody who would have to have a really solid understanding of how that style works. And you can't do that in a movie that you've never discussed it.
Yeah, especially because, one of the things that I brought up as a criticism of Batman Begins was the way the fighting was shot, because ultimately shooting a hand-to-hand combat thing with somebody wearing a cape like that, it's not going to look great on camera. So the fight editing was a little hard to watch. This one, they do a lot more wide shots, and his suit is different in such a way that you can actually watch him physically fight. But you're absolutely right. You can see all the fighting that happens, and in both fights, the fight is exactly the same.
Yeah,
he does nothing different. If anything, he does less.
Yeah, and that's where
tricks. And it's just I don't know why suddenly he's able to beat Bane.
Yeah, and that's where I kind of go like, there's so many things he could do. Even if you step out of the Casey fight, even if he was like leg checking him through the fight, and you realize he's just tearing him down. we would get that. You know what I mean?
And I
And
know I can hear people screaming right now. Well, he punches him in the mask, so he gets less of his. That's never brought. It's never brought up at any given time in the movie, like what the mask is for.
yeah,
In the very opening scene, someone asks, "Why does he wear the mask? If I take that off of him, will it be painful?" And Bane makes a joke about like it'll be painful for you, and
yeah,
it's like, okay, cool, and it's never brought up again. And so suddenly it's like, well, then how does he know that's going to work? It's never
yeah,
been brought up. It doesn't. And then especially because then Bane just gets taken down by a cannon shot to the chest from Catwoman. I was like, really, that's how we're taking him out?
yeah, yeah. It's a weird stuff. But yeah, that's my, and don't even get me started on, he traps the cops in these sewer tunnels,
For 5
and
months.
they're there for 5 months. And when they come out, no one has a beard. All their clothes look fine.
Well, didn't
Somehow
you
they
see them
had tents and
shaving?
food.
Didn't you see them shaving?
Yeah,
Well,
and
they
that's
do mention that like part of what like Gordon and Joseph Gordon-Levitt are doing, part of their job is they're getting supplies down into the sewers. But I'm like, well, if you can get food into the sewers, can't you get the cops out of the sewers?
yeah,
How are that does it just, I don't know. There's a lot of things where it's like they're asking us to just accept a lot in this movie, and
yeah.
it yeah, I don't know. I
No, that's like I said, it's so many logic problems that I go like, he was just trying to get it done so he could make Interstellar.
I also don't understand why okay, cool. Why not just have Talia? Why is Talia a last 5 minutes of the movie reveal? Like why
Yeah,
just have her be Talia from the beginning and just be like, I'm here to undo my father's legacy when really she's trying to fulfill it in the background. Boom, I just rewrote the movie for
yeah,
you again. I think you and I have rewritten this movie 1,000 times on this show. From resequeling The Dark Knight to this episode, we have rewritten this movie 1 billion times over. It's just I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of setup for a lot of neat ideas in this movie that none of them come to fruition. Like the thing at the beginning where Matthew Modine is talking to the senator about how, like, yeah, the mayor's talking about dropping Gordon because, he's a war hero. We need a peacetime leader now. And that never comes up again. And I'm like, why
yeah,
was that ever introduced?
yeah.
I don't know. It's a,
Or like, look, I know that there's a lot of Asian and Korean movies that have some really deep, long drawn out plans of revenge,
yeah.
but part of her plan of revenge against Bruce Wayne was to sleep with him all night.
It's their romance comes out of no, honestly, I'll be honest. I think both romances kind of come out of nowhere, but I buy him and Hannah Hathaway is a lot more than I do him and Marion Cotillard's.
Him and yeah, Bale and Hathaway have some incredible chemistry.
Whoa, do they? That is Michael Keaton, Michelle Pfeiffer. Like,
Yeah,
and I also I will say I love the dance sequence allusion back to Batman Returns in this. That is a
yes,
great scene. Excellent sequence, phenomenal acting, chemistry off the charts. There
yeah,
is some genuinely good stuff in this movie. I do want to be clear. I don't think this movie is bad. I just think it's not as good as it could have been. But there are some truly fantastic scenes, sequences, and acting, and just great moments in this movie.
yeah. I think this is. I mean, we haven't gotten to this other one, but I said it about this other one, and I'll say that about this one. Is like, I think The Dark Knight Rises is 2 or 3 movies smashed together, and one of them's really good,
Mhm.
and the other 2 are kind of blah. And the one that's really good is the story of Batman meeting Selina Kyle and the weird cat and mouse relationship situation that comes of that. And I feel like that would have been your strongest. Like, how cool would it have been for him to come out of retirement to stop this crazy girl who's doing all these robberies just to fall in love with her and retire?
Yeah, like
You know?
you could have done Hush. You could have done any of the Bat and the Cat stories. I mean, there were so many things, and again, Anne Hathaway is so good. I remember
Yes.
she was that casting where everybody just kind of went, yeah, that tracks. That makes sense. That's
Yeah.
we're all on board with that. And even Tom Hardy as Bane, everybody was just kind of like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah. He hadn't become big yet, and most people didn't know Bronson. I think I'd already seen
Well,
Bronson, so I knew he could get big, but not that big. Holy mackerel.
And most American audiences only knew him from Star Trek Nemesis at this point too. So like he wasn't a huge draw, but Christopher Nolan liked working with him and saw something. And of course now we all know Tom Hardy is the man, but
yeah. Well, he was in a what was the dream one? Inception.
Oh, you're right. He was in Inception. Never mind.
But he just wasn't like swole as all get out.
He also didn't come out of that as like, well, people did like him a lot coming out of that, but a lot of people came out of that one talking about Joseph Gordon-Levitt and
because he steals that movie.
Well, I'll tell you a movie Joseph Gordon-Levitt doesn't steal though is The Dark Knight Rises. Man, I feel because I really like Joseph Gordon-Levitt. What a waste of talent in this movie. What a waste of talent, and honestly, just what a poorly written character. Because I'm gonna tell you something right now, because this has been weighing on my mind since I watched it the other day. The whole thing where he goes to Wayne Manor and says that he was a child at the orphanage, and when he looked at Bruce Wayne, he knew that he was Batman. They're like the same age.
Yeah, there's a. So are we supposed to believe he's 26 or 20? Like he's got to be, for that to be mathematically correct, he would have to be at max 24, because 8 years ago that makes him 16. Nope, he'd have to be 22 so that he could be a kid seeing Bruce Wayne. Because Bruce Wayne's only active for.
Except we know that can't be true, because he says in his own story that he didn't even go to the orphanage until he was like 14, because he was a teenager when he. So it's like but also again, I looked it up. They're like within 5 years of each other. They are basically the same age. So
Christian Bale's playing older than he is in this movie. But he doesn't look it.
But he does not look it. But also, you've cast two actors that are the same age as each other, so it's not. If they had cast him a lot younger, and he was like so in the in the scene where Batman comes back, and you have the whole like you're in for a show tonight, kid, with the older cop. So the younger cop that's there with him, who's actually an actor who goes on to be on Blue Bloods as playing a rookie cop.
Yeah,
have that kid be a rookie. You could have just got that kid. Like, you could have just had it be just have him be a rookie, have him be a younger actor. Joseph Gordon-Levitt's a good actor, and I know Christopher Nolan's looking to work with him, but this is so bad, man. And I'm not even talking about the reveal. It's just in general, just the character in general. It's like, why is this character here?
Yeah. It's one of those things where had it paid off and there was a sequel where he's Batman or Nightwing, depending on how you write it, it makes sense for him to be in this movie. But we never see him do anything else. It could have been anybody else filling in the shoes of Batman. And that's where I go like, I don't understand why that was he didn't need to be in the movie. I'd rather you not have him in the movie and Batman just disappears.
You ready for me to rewrite this movie again? I'm going to rewrite this movie again.
Do it.
I'm gonna make this work.
Do it.
You just have Batman's out of retirement, and then all of a sudden there's a new hero showing up in Gotham, and it's calling himself Nightwing, and it turns out that it's actually Officer Richard Grayson. Boom. I just rewrote the movie for you again, and at least made it make sense.
Yeah, and you should.
Your real name is Robin reveal at the that I rolled my eyes so hard in the theater.
Oh yeah, I think everybody did.
Yeah.
Yeah, or just call him Grayson, Richard Grayson. Like, I don't know why you don't just name him that. Like, if you're not going to do anything else with him, nobody cares if it's wrong.
Yeah, just have him be Richard Grayson, and he just plays the philosophical role of Robin, even though he's not actually Robin. Something like that. I honestly don't give a shit, but it's just like, why? It's like when people talk about how like the lawyer in The Dark Knight is supposed to be some allusion to the Riddler. I'm like, no, it's not. Stop. Shut up. Stop it. No, don't. Because if it was going to be that, then why wouldn't you just name him Nigma?
Yeah.
If that's the case, then why didn't you just name this guy Richard Grayson? Like, it's like he was trying to be as not comic book as he could with this comic book movie. And when you consider how great a job he did at balancing those with The Dark Knight, it's so confusing to me. Like, I'm wondering if, like, did David S. Goyer not have as much writing on this one? Like was this mostly Chris and John? I don't know. They're all credited, but it just feels like I feel like Goyer's better than this.
Well, and this is where you just have to go, like, thinking of timing. Man of Steel is being made at the same time or has already come out. I can't recall which one it
Man of
is.
Steel doesn't come out till 2013.
Okay. So Man of Steel is being...
I don't even think it's announced yet. I could be wrong.
Well, because in the behind the scenes stuff for Man of Steel, they talk about how Christopher Nolan and David Goyer create the groundwork for Man of Steel while they're trying to do this movie. They like take a break and go do Man of Steel real quick, hand it off to what's his name? Name escaping me. Zack Snyder, and then go back to do Dark Knight Rises.
So Man of Steel, yeah, because story credited to David S. Goyer and Christopher Nolan on Man of Steel. Development began on Man of Steel in 2008. So yeah, so it's well into development. There's probably posters up at this point for Man of Steel.
Yeah, so they're kind of, I think
there was honestly probably a trailer for it in front of The Dark Knight Rises, and I just don't remember.
So I think that's what happens is you got split duties, split things. David Goyer is doing. Is he directing Blade Trinity? No, Blade Trinity's already come out by then.
Blade Trinity has long come out by then.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, I think what happens is they just don't. I just don't think they take the time to do it right. Because it's just so less of a film than the other two. Not in a like, this is a bad movie. Like that's what's aggravating to me. It's like it's not like it's a horrible movie. Yeah. It just has weird, like, what?
Yeah, but also he also, like, the year before this, he had written Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance. So woof. But he had also, like, he had worked on, like, that Flash Forward series that only got one season and it ended in the middle of a big cliffhanger. That show was good. And it's just, yeah, David Goyer, I don't know.
He's hit or miss.
He's hit or miss, but I think he hits more than he misses. I don't know. It's kind of like you said. This just feels like a couple of. It's like what ideas do we have? Put them all in one movie, and they were all first draft ideas. It feels like.
Let's get this movie done so I can make all the movies I want to make, and Warner Bros. Will be happy because this movie actually still makes a good amount of money if memory serves correctly.
Oh, this movie crushes at the box office. It broke $1 billion.
Yeah, so it's like as much as So Christopher Nolan, even though the movie's mediocre, it does what they want him to do. It gets him Interstellar, and then whatever he does after Interstellar, I can't remember. Not Tenet. What's the other one before? Is it the World War II one he does after that? Dunkirk?
Oh, Dunkirk, yeah.
So I think that's what it is. I think he does this out of contract obligation, even though he may not have wanted to. He gets it done. It makes tons of money. Now Warner Brothers is going to be like, dude, do whatever you want. Make your crazy space movie. Make your World War II movie. Make your time travel movie. Make anything you want. We don't care. And I think that's what gets him where he is now, even though now he's like giving them the finger because of the releasing things on digital, not in the theater. But anyway, we'll get into that later. Or not at all. We don't. Yeah, that's another episode.
Conversation. It's just, it's, again, a lot of really good ideas in this. A lot of really good ideas that I think could have gone somewhere had they been given the chance to. I feel like the thing I will push back on with the whole, like, contract obligations is Christopher Nolan's never done anything halfway in his life. You know what I mean?
Correct.
So for me, I have a harder time accepting the fact that he half-assed this for the sake of getting it done, and more of just he is blows his whole load the first draft, and then anything after that is just not going to be very good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he puts all his best ideas into his first. All his best ideas are his first ideas, and so I also feel like that's why I also feel like Goyer maybe didn't have as much input on this one. Because I feel like there's a lot of missed comic book opportunities that David Goyer would have caught.
Yeah. Or, I mean, this could be that whole, like, Warner Brothers telling them, we need you to have Catwoman and Bane in this movie, and you could cast them, but you have to put them in this movie. And
Yeah.
you need to you need to cap this off because we're rebooting the character. You get those notes you have to do, and because that's, you have him come back for the time he comes back just to re-quit or fake his own death. Like, I don't know. It's I think ultimately I think this is not my closer, but my final-ish thoughts in a way. This movie, for the Bruce Wayne arc, I think completes the story Christopher Nolan started telling in Batman Begins.
Mm-hmm.
It's just nowhere near as satisfying, and it does not line up or track with what we know of Batman from the comics. And I think that's where it kind of is a hard pill to swallow, that one, that you had Batman not active for 8 years, but he was only active for like a year or two. And then two, that he comes back for a second, solves one more big thing, and is like, I'm faking my death so I could, go hang out with Catwoman for the rest of my life in France.
I don't. I feel like. So I do not hate the idea of Batman having a happy ending. I do not hate the idea of Bruce Wayne getting a happy ending. I really don't. It's just not earned in this movie. They don't do anything to earn it, because it's like, honestly, this entire movie feels like it's a setup proving to Bruce Wayne why Gotham will always need Batman.
Yeah. Or you want to give him I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, this is not him saying like, hey, we just only need you just one last time and then you're good to go. It's like, I feel like this movie is a testament to Bruce Wayne feels like Gotham doesn't need Batman anymore, and this is the way of showing like, no, there will always be a time when Gotham will need Batman. And I realize that's why he's handing it off to not Robin at the end, but I don't know. I feel like he didn't do anything really in this movie.
Yeah.
And I also feel like there was a huge wasted opportunity in not calling this pit that he's stuck in the Lazarus pit. If you really, no, I'm being serious. If you think about it from a metaphorical comic book standpoint, this is again why I go back to the whole, like, I feel like if Goyer had his hands on this more, they would have called it the Lazarus pit, because I don't know.
Or, like, here's the thing. You want to end this and give him a happy ending? End it with him and Catwoman on the top of a rooftop, and they're protecting the city. Or you see Batman, it's Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and Bruce Wayne is in the cave with Catwoman, and and Alfred shows up, and they're backing up this new Batman. It's still a happy ending. You still know they're all together. We don't have to fake his death and go to France.
You could have had it be where the movie ends with like, okay, cool. Like it could have, again, like pulling from the Dark Knight Returns, it could have been him in the cave running the computer while Gordon-Levitt and Anne Hathaway are out running the streets. You know what I mean? Like there was a way. I know we're Monday morning quarterbacking this thing hard, 11 years later, but it's just, again, massive missed opportunities in this one. It's a lot of, you had all the pieces for a truly great final movie in this trilogy were there. They had everything they needed. They just didn't put them together the right way, I feel like.
Yeah. And that's where it's like, you could have been so good.
God, the potential. The movie had so much potential. But listen, that is the final movie in the Dark Knight trilogy from Christopher Nolan, The Dark Knight Rises. We are now moving on. After this month, we are moving on to the Snyderverse, and this is gonna get heated. Because when it comes to the Snyderverse, nobody disagrees more than Matthew and I. To give you guys an idea of how this is going to work, we're going to do Batman v Superman, the Ultimate Edition. We'll talk about the theatrical one in its criticisms, but we'll ultimately be focusing on the Ultimate Edition. And then we're going to talk about Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Did we solidify we're talking about it, or do you want to?
We had that conversation on the phone. I promise you we did. But so those are the only two we're going to be talking about in the Snyderverse, though, because they're the only ones that are like Batman forward. I know there's an argument to be made for the Flash, but we literally just did the Flash when we reviewed it,
and it sucks, so we're not talking about it again.
So we'll be talking about BVS and then Zack Snyder's Justice League, and then we will end our Batman breakdowns with a year-plus look back at the Batman. That is going to be coming for you guys in a few months as we go along. So buckle up. We got a few more to go, and then who knows what we're going to do. But anyway, we'll talk to you guys again soon. We'll see you again next time here. You guys can I should probably tell them where they could talk to us, shouldn't I, Matt?
No, why not?
Yeah, sure. Listen, if you guys want to hang out with us and talk to us, head over to the Good Pods podcast app where you can leave comments on the episodes, and I'm on there. We'll chat. Matt's on there. We'll chat with you. You guys can also find us on Twitter at We Are the Batman. You can find me on Twitter at Mr. Mike Shea.
You can find me on Twitter at Mr. J Ninja.
That is going to do it for this week. We will see you guys again next time. Same bat podcast channel.
Bye-bye.